Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello class, welcome and very good morning. Today we are diving into a fascinating and critical part of the food industry, which is sensory evaluation. In this meeting, we will talk about sensory evaluation of food and agricultural products. By the end of this class, you will understand the meaning and importance of sensory evaluation, especially in the agricultural product industry. My name is Sulistyo Prabowo, and I will be your lecturer today. If you look at this picture, have you ever wondered why a food product can be so delicious or even so bad? The answer lies in science called sensory evaluation. So what exactly is it? The sensory evaluation is a discipline used to evoke, measure, analyze, and interpret reaction to the characteristic of foods and other materials as they are perceived by the sense of sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. In simple terms, it's about using people as instruments to measure how products are perceived. This evaluation is crucial. It ensures consumer acceptance of our products, aids in the development of new products, and maintain the consistent quality of existing products. Think about it. A food product can have the best nutritional value in the world, but if it doesn't look, smell, or taste good, people won't buy it. Sensory evaluation helps us ensure products are not just safe and nutritious, but also desirable and enjoyable. It's the bridge between science and the consumer experience. Before we get into the different types of tests, let's quickly break down how sense play a role. As I mentioned previously, there are 5 senses of human being. Taste by our mouth or our tongues, hearing with the ear, sight with our eyes, smell with the nose, and even the touch. So the question is, what do we evaluate by our senses? First, appearance. Eyes is the first system of sense that we use when assessing the properties and quality of food or its conformity with consumer expectation. This is our first impression. Is the color attractive? Are there any defects? Vision perception is directly tied to other senses. This triggers expectation. The color, shape, size, and even the packaging can influence our expectation. A pale strawberry yogurt might seem less flavorful than a bright red one, for example. Second sense is the aroma. Smell or aroma, our sense incredibly powerful. In sensory evaluation tests, scent can significantly influence how consumers perceive and evaluate products. The aroma of a product can evoke feelings of freshness, indulgence, or even familiarity, all of which shapes consumer preference. The aroma of coffee, the smell of freshly baked bread, or the scent of a spice all contribute significantly to our perception of flavor. The third sense is taste. The sensation received by the sector of the tongue, our tongue can detect 5 basic tastes: umami, sour, sweet, bitter, and salty. These are the fundamental building block of flavor. Taste is greatly influenced by the temperature of the product. What we often call taste is actually a combination of taste and smell. The smell we detect when we approach a product is an important component of the overall taste. For example, the aroma of vanilla in cake. We can think that cake is very delicious, with our taste. And the fourth, touch or mouthfeel. The sense of touch is a complex process of perception of external factors carried out with the help of receptors located in the skin, muscles, tendons, joints, mucous membranes, lips, and mouth. This is all about texture. Texture or mouthfeel is the physical characteristic felt by the finger, mouth, teeth, and tongue, such as chewiness, crunchiness, softness, or hardness. It even includes the sound made when we chewing something. Other mouthfeel terms are tender, spongy, moist, sticky, runny, soft, creamy, and crispy in the snack. This tactile sensation or mouthfeel is crucial. A soggy potato may be less preferable than the good one, or a grainy ice cream would not be well received by the consumers. And lastly is the sense of hearing. The sound of food can also be important. The crunch of a krupuk or a snack, the fizz of a soda, or the sizzle of food on a grill all add to the experience. To ensure valid and objective result, we use structured testing methods. Sensory tests are generally broken down into three main categories: discriminative and descriptive analysis, both of which are product-oriented and analytical, and hedonic preference or acceptability test, which are people-oriented and considered as an effective test. Let's talk about the descriptive tests in detail. Descriptive tests, as the name suggests, are used to describe the products using the sensory qualities perceived by the panel in appearance, odor, texture, and flavor. The intensity of perceived qualities is scored or graded, thus putting a numerical value on any existing differences. On average, a panel of minimum 10 trained assessors can be recommended for descriptive analysis. Descriptive testing is the most detailed. The goal is not simply to look for the differences, but to identify and quantify all sensory characteristics and their intensity. The panelists are trained acting as human instruments. They don't just say if there is difference, but they describe the nature and intensity of those differences. They can describe accurate representation of the product's attributes on a universal scale, allowing us to understand how the products compares to products across categories. Panelists usually they use predetermined vocabulary and a rating scale to quantify attributes like sweetness, bitterness, sourness, and even texture. This provides a detailed fingerprint of the product's sensory profile. It's often used for product development and quality control. An example of sensory map of aroma depicted in this radar chart, indicating the sensory attributes. A total of 30 panelists accesses the coffee brews to evaluate color, aroma, flavor, mouthfeel, and overall acceptability using the 9-point hedonic scale. Continue to discriminative tests, also known as difference or similarity testing. The purpose of discrimination testing is to determine if a difference exists between the samples by comparing them to one another. During the assessment of similarity or dissimilarity of the samples, the testing can be overall or attribute focused, depending on the objective. Discrimination testing methods, however, cannot be used if the difference between the sample is too obvious. Well, okay, about triangle test. In this test, and this is very common method. Panelists are given 3 samples. 2 are the same and 1 is different. They must identify the odd one out. This is very sensitive test used to see if a small change in a recipe is noticeable to consumers. It is recommended for each panelist to receive their own set with different coding and order of the samples. The panelists are then asked to either observe, sniff, and or taste the samples in order and give a feedback on the existence and nature of the differences between the samples. On average, about 20 to 40 subjects can be used for triangle testing to provide a statistically significant result. However, if the panel is highly trained and or differences might be relatively easy to identify, then 12 assessors can be used. Next, duo trio test. This is a sensory evaluation method used to determine if a detectable difference exists between two products. In the test, panelists are given reference samples and 2 coded test samples and must identify which of the 2 coded samples is identical to the reference. Minimum of 16 assessors is required for duo trio testing. Statistically significance of the result is, however, much more improved with 30 to 40 or larger number of assessors. It is often used to assess the impact of changes in ingredients, processing, or packaging. And next, not a test. This is the easiest to conduct when trying to determine a sensory difference between the samples. In comparison to the rest of the discrimination tests mentioned above, more than 2 products can be involved in this process. The number of samples in a lineup for a not a test is also not strictly limited. The first sample in the lineup is always a clearly marked control. In this picture, we give code A. The panelists are then asked to inspect the rest of the code samples in a series and determine whether they are similar to the control or not. Additional feedback on the differences in any given samples is marked not A can also be provided. It is recommended for each panelist to receive their own set with different coding and order of the samples. This is to hindering for the bias. An example for bread samples in this picture, a not a test, is provided in this slide. 10 to 50 assessors can be used for this method with high number of assessors providing more statistically significant result. Finally, there is the affective test or acceptance test. These tests are all about preference and acceptance. We want to know if people like our products and how much they like it. So this is the most relevant to consumers. The question is, how much do panelists like or dislike the product? We use the well-known 9-point scale hedonic. 9-point hedonic scale. Panelists in this test are usually ordinary or untrained consumers, and the number of panels should be large, at least 50 to 100, to be representative to the population. In the liking test, this is the most common. We ask panelists to rate a product on a scale, typically the 9-point hedonic scale, like we said before, from like extremely to dislike extremely. In the hedonic test, also known as preference test, we give panelists 2 or more samples and ask them which one they prefer. For example, which of these 2 sodas do you like better? This is a quick and effective way to compare products. Now, let's talk about the practical side of things, conducting a sensory test. For the result to be valid, we must control the testing environment and protocol very carefully. The environment, we need a sensory booths. Those booths are designed to minimize distraction. The lighting is neutral and there are no external smells or sounds. This ensures the panelists are only focusing on the product. Even in the laboratory of sensory evaluation, we separate between the researchers and the panelists. So the panelists here, they are not distracted by the researcher when the researcher is preparing the samples. About the sample preparation, samples must be arranged and presented in consistent manner. They should be at the same temperature in identical cups or containers and coded with the random numbers. For instance, 253 or 781. About these random numbers, we can find in any statistical book usually in the appendix. Why we use these random numbers? Because it can avoid any bias. And next, about the panelists, this is the important thing. The number and type of a panelist, it depends on the test. For effective tests, we use untrained consumers. For descriptive analysis, we use trained panelists who have been calibrated to a specific set of attributes. As we said, this is a trained panelist, so we have to give them training before they ready to be a panelist. And the instruction should be clear. Simple instructions are given to the panelists. They are often asked to cleanse their palate between samples, usually with a sip of water or a pain crackers. By following this strict protocol, we can assure our results are reliable and not influenced by external factors. Okay. So we talk very much about the laboratory, about the panelists, about the type of sample, type of test, and now come to our mind the question: where is sensory evaluation used? In the food industry, sensory evaluation plays a crucial role, from new product development and quality control to product marketing. Sensory evaluation can help the food industry in this term. Sensory evaluation can identify the sensory characteristic of a products preferred by consumers. Sensory evaluation also ensure that products meet established quality standard. It can increase product competitiveness. In the new product development, sensory evaluation can be used to assess the sensory characteristic of a new product's prototypes. This evaluation can help the food industry determine whether the new products meets consumer preference. This is also vital in quality control. If the crispiness of today's chips differs from yesterday, sensory evaluation is the first step to detect this before it affects consumers. Sensory data is also often correlated with instrumental data, such as physical chemical measuring instruments. In quality control, sensory evaluation can be used to ensure that products meet established quality standards. This evaluation can be conducted routinely to monitor product quality and to ensure products change remains consistent. In product marketing, sensory evaluation can be used to determine consumer preference for a product, and this evaluation can be conducted to evaluate the effectiveness of marketing strategies or to determine whether new products have the potential to be launched. So we have discussed that sensory evaluation is the bridge between your products and consumer acceptance. Sensory evaluation is more than just testing food. It's a scientific approach to understanding the consumer experience. It helps companies to develop new products that will be successful in the market, improve existing products based on consumer feedback, maintain quality control to ensure every batch is consistent, identify and solve product issues before they reach the consumer. So, the next time you enjoy your favorite snack, remember that a lot of science and a lot of taste testing went into making it so delicious. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.